The moment Sarah stepped through the door of Mike's chaotic apartment, toys scattered across the floor and dishes piled high in the sink, neither of them could have possibly known how profoundly their lives were about to change. If you've ever believed in second chances or the power of unexpected love, this story will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying stories that remind us of the beauty in life's unexpected turns, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content that celebrates the resilience of the human spirit. Mike Collins stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, dark circles framing his tired eyes. At 34, this wasn't how he had pictured his life. The small two-bedroom apartment in downtown Seattle felt emptier than it should with a 5-year-old girl living there. But Emma was still asleep, and these quiet morning moments were when the weight of single parenthood pressed most heavily on his shoulders. 3 years had passed since Diane had walked out, leaving behind a note that simply read, "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." No warning, no proper goodbye to their daughter. Just gone. The first year had been a blur of grief, anger, and the terrifying realization that he was now solely responsible for raising a child who kept asking when mommy was coming home. Mike splashed cold water on his face and tried to summon energy for the day ahead. Emma needed to be at kindergarten by 8, which meant he had exactly 45 minutes to wake her, feed her, dress her, and navigate morning traffic before rushing to his job at the architectural firm where he was perpetually apologizing for being late or leaving early for school pickups and doctor appointments. "Daddy?" Emma's small voice called from the hallway. She stood clutching her stuffed elephant, hair tangled from sleep. "Is today pancake day?" Mike forced a smile. "Not today, sweetie. We're running late. How about cereal?" The disappointment on her face stabbed at his heart. He had promised pancakes yesterday, but after staying up until midnight finishing a project deadline, he'd forgotten to buy the mix. "Okay," she said, her little shoulders slumping as she padded to the kitchen. These small failures accumulated daily, building a mountain of guilt that threatened to crush him. He was trying his best, but his best never seemed enough. The apartment was perpetually messy, Emma's lunch boxes rarely creative, and bedtime stories were often cut short when his eyes grew too heavy to continue reading. At work, Mike's boss David called him into his office just as he was settling at his desk. "Collins, we need to talk about the Westridge project," David said, not looking up from his computer. "The client meeting is tomorrow, and I need those revised renderings by 5 today." Mike's stomach dropped. "I thought that was due next week." "No, it's tomorrow." "Did you not read the email I sent on Friday?" He hadn't. Friday had been Emma's school play, and he'd left early, planning to catch up on emails over the weekend. Then Emma had developed a fever, and the weekend became a blur of children's Tylenol, cool compresses, and Disney movies. "I'll have it done," Mike promised, already calculating how he could possibly complete a 10-hour job in 7 hours, minus the time he needed to pick up Emma from school. "You've been distracted lately, Mike," David said, finally looking up. "I understand your situation is complicated. But we have deadlines and clients who expect our best work." "It won't happen again," Mike said, the same words he'd repeated at least monthly for the past 3 years. Back at his desk, Mike called Mrs. Patel, their elderly neighbor who sometimes watched Emma after school. She agreed to pick Emma up, but reminded him she had a doctor's appointment at 6. Mike thanked her profusely, promising to be home by then, though he had no idea how he would finish the project in time. The day spiraled from there. He skipped lunch to work on the renderings. His ex-wife's lawyer called about missed alimony paperwork. The school nurse phoned to say Emma was complaining of a stomachache, though she didn't have a fever. By 4:30, Mike's head was pounding, and the renderings were only half complete. At 6:15, his phone rang again. It was Mrs. Patel, her voice tight with annoyance. "Mr. Collins, I have my appointment. Emma is fine, but I cannot be late to the doctor." "I'm so sorry," Mike said, saving his work and shutting down his computer. "I'm leaving now. I will leave her with Sarah in 4B, Mrs. Patel said. She has agreed to watch her until you arrive. Sarah? I don't know any Sarah, Mike said, panic rising. She moved in last month. Very nice young lady, works from home. Emma has met her before in the hallway. Before Mike could protest, Mrs. Patel had hung up. He grabbed his jacket and raced to the parking garage, heart hammering. His daughter was with a complete stranger. What kind of father was he? 20 minutes later, Mike knocked frantically on apartment 4B. The door opened to reveal a woman about his age with warm brown eyes and curly hair pulled into a messy bun. Behind her, he could hear Emma's delighted laughter. You must be Mike, the woman said with a smile. I'm Sarah Chen. Emma's been telling me all about her school play. She's quite the actress. I'm so sorry about this, Mike began, stepping into the apartment. Mrs. Patel shouldn't have. It's really no problem, Sarah interrupted. I work from home as a children's book illustrator, so I'm used to kid-friendly interruptions. Emma's been helping me test out some new character designs. The apartment was cozy and colorful, with artwork covering the walls and a large drafting table by the window. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by colored pencils and paper, completely absorbed in her drawing. Daddy, she exclaimed when she spotted him. Look what I made with Miss Sarah. It's a dragon that breathes bubbles instead of fire. Mike knelt to examine her drawing, relief washing over him. That's amazing, Em. Sarah says I'm a natural artist, Emma beamed. Can we stay longer? She was going to show me how to draw unicorns next. We need to get home, sweetie. It's almost dinner time, and we've imposed on Miss Sarah enough. Actually, Sarah said, I made pasta. There's plenty if you'd like to join me. It seems a shame to waste it, and you both look like you could use a home-cooked meal. Mike started to decline automatically. He didn't accept charity, and they'd already been enough trouble, but the smell of garlic and tomatoes made his empty stomach growl audibly. When was the last time they'd eaten something that hadn't come from a box or drive-thru? Please, Daddy. Emma pleaded. If you're sure it's no trouble, Mike relented. None at all, Sarah smiled. Consider it a welcome to the building dinner, even if I am a month late in offering it. That dinner changed everything, though neither Mike nor Sarah realized it at the time. The conversation flowed easily as they discovered mutual interests in architecture. Sarah had studied it before switching to illustration, and hiking, a hobby Mike had abandoned after becoming a single parent. Emma chattered happily, showing none of the shyness she typically displayed around strangers. When they finally left, Sarah pressed a container of leftover pasta into Mike's hands. For lunch tomorrow, she said. And Emma, you can come draw with me anytime. Just have your dad text me first. She handed Mike a business card with her number. That night, as Mike tucked Emma into bed, she asked, Can we visit Sarah again soon? She makes me feel happy inside. We'll see, Mike said, though he was already composing a thank you text in his head. The next few weeks brought subtle changes to their routine. Sarah offered to watch Emma after school twice a week, insisting it helped her creative process to have a child's perspective on her illustrations. Mike initially refused, not wanting to burden her, but Sarah was persistent. Look, I work alone all day, she explained. Having Emma around for a few hours is actually a highlight. And it gives you some breathing room with work. Gradually, Mike accepted her help. With the extra time, he caught up on projects at work, and David's disapproving frowns became less frequent. He started arriving home less frazzled, with energy to actually play with Emma instead of just supervising her evening routine. Sarah became a regular presence in their lives. She joined them for pizza nights on Fridays. She taught Emma to make simple origami animals. When Emma needed a costume for Heritage Day at school, Sarah stayed up late helping Mike construct a traditional Chinese dress to honor Emma's maternal heritage, something Mike had always felt inadequate addressing on his own. My mom was Chinese, but she died when I was in college, Sarah explained as they worked. Making these connections to culture through art became my way of keeping her memory alive. Mike found himself opening up about Diane, something he rarely did with anyone. The hardest part is knowing Emma might not remember her mother at all someday. Diane wasn't perfect, but before the postpartum depression, before she started pulling away, she loved Emma. I know she did. Sarah listened without judgment, her hands steady as she guided the fabric through the sewing machine. Memory is complicated, she said. But love leaves imprints in ways we don't always recognize. 3 months after that first dinner, Mike realized something had fundamentally shifted in his life. The apartment was still messy sometimes, and work deadlines still loomed, but the crushing weight of doing it all alone had lifted. He had a friend, a partner in the day-to-day challenges. And Emma was thriving with this additional adult who gave her attention and encouragement. One evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Mike and Sarah sat on his small balcony sharing a bottle of wine. The Seattle skyline glittered before them, a rare clear night showcasing the city lights. I never thanked you properly, Mike said, for everything you've done for us. Sarah shook her head. You don't need to thank me. I care about you both. Why? The question slipped out before he could stop it. I mean, we were strangers. You had no obligation to help us. Sarah was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in her glass. When I moved here, I was running away from something, she finally said. A relationship that had become controlling. He didn't hit me, but he isolated me, made me doubt myself. By the time I left, I barely recognized the person I'd become. Mike listened, seeing new depths in this woman who had brought such light into their lives. When Mrs. Patel asked if I could watch Emma that day, it was the first time since moving that I felt useful. Connected. And then I met you, trying so hard to hold everything together, and I recognized that same isolation I'd felt. Different circumstances, but the same feeling of drowning while trying to convince everyone you can swim. Mike's throat tightened with emotion. I was drowning, he admitted. Some days I still am. The difference is, now you don't have to swim alone. Sarah's hand found his in the darkness, warm and steady. The kiss that followed felt inevitable, a natural progression of the bond that had formed between them. When they pulled apart, both were smiling, a little shy but certain. What happens now? Mike asked. Now we take it one day at a time, Sarah replied. We figure it out together. The path wasn't always smooth. Emma went through a period of confusion, asking if Sarah was going to be her new mommy, then worrying that loving Sarah meant betraying the mother she barely remembered. Mike's ex-wife reappeared briefly, creating tension before disappearing again. Sarah's ex made threatening calls that required a restraining order. But through it all, they built something beautiful, a family formed not by obligation but by choice. Sarah moved into their apartment 6 months later, bringing color and art to every corner. Mike found himself laughing more, sleeping better, rediscovering passions he'd set aside. Emma blossomed with the stability of 2 adults who adored her, her natural creativity nurtured by Sarah's guidance. On Emma's 6th birthday, Sarah presented her with a handmade book, the story of a little girl and her father who were doing their best until a new friend helped them see how strong they already were. The illustrations showed thinly disguised versions of themselves, navigating challenges together, building a home filled with love. Did you make this just for me? Emma asked, wide-eyed. Just for you, Sarah confirmed. But I was thinking, if you approve, maybe other children might like to read it too. A year later, Our Perfectly Imperfect Family was published, the first of what would become a successful series about diverse family structures and the love that binds them. Sarah's career flourished, allowing Mike to scale back his hours and be more present for Emma. They moved to a house with a yard, where Emma could play and Sarah could have a proper studio. On a warm summer evening 5 years after Sarah first entered their lives, Mike proposed in their garden, with Emma holding the ring. Sarah's yes was immediate and certain, her eyes shining with happy tears. "You saved us," Mike said as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Sarah shook her head. "No. You were already saving yourselves. I just helped you see your own strength." As they embraced, Emma wrapping her arms around both of them, Mike reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From the darkest days of single parenthood to this moment of complete joy, the path had been unpredictable and often difficult. But standing in the garden with the two people he loved most in the world, he wouldn't change a single step. Life doesn't always give us what we expect. Sometimes it takes away what we thought we needed, only to replace it with something we never knew to ask for. Mike's struggle as a single father hadn't ended when Sarah entered their lives. Parenting would always have its challenges, but he no longer faced those challenges alone. And in that partnership, that sharing of burdens and joys, they had all found something precious, a family built on choice, understanding, and unconditional love. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of hope, resilience, and the unexpected ways love finds us when we need it most. Remember, sometimes the most beautiful chapters of our lives begin when we think the story is already written. Stay open to the possibilities, your Sarah might be just around the corner.